this video, we'll see how to deploy an API to Heroku. Here we have an API running locally on localhost 5000. If we hit send, we have a message of the day that says hello Lambda and a collection called shouts that should be coming from the database. Let's go see the code. It's a simple Express server, has a couple of endpoints, a post and a get. And what we want to do is configure this so that we can read this message of the day during development from our .env file, but when we deploy to production, we're going to have a different message of the day deployed on Heroku. First, we need to have an application. So let's go and create an application on Heroku. Give it a name. It's got to be unique. Mine would be called Luis Shouts. Hopefully that's not taken and it's available. And then hit the Create App button. Next, we'll set up continuous deployment from GitHub. What that means is, it's just a fancy word to say, whenever I push a change to a particular branch on GitHub, the application will be refreshed with the new changes. So every time you push, I'm going to set it up so every time we push to master, the changes are propagated to the production application and the users can see the results in less than a minute. Let's see how that's done. Once the application is created, you go into the Deploy tab, if it's not already selected for you. Scroll down a little bit and say, I would like to deploy this from GitHub. The first time, you will get a pop-up asking for authorization to let Heroku read your GitHub repositories. Make sure to answer yes to that. Once that's done, you're going to be on this screen where I am right now, and you can just look for your repository if you know what the name of it is. Like in my case, I know it begins with shout, so it would be this repository right here. Hit connect and scroll down a little bit. Pick one of the branches. In my case, it's going to be the master branch, and make sure that you click this enable automatic deploys. That's part of the magic right there. So when we click that, now automatic deploys are enabled. Go ahead and click the deploy branch. And if we go to the overview, we should see that the deployment is in process. First, the application is going to get built just in case there are any errors. And if the build is successful, then it will get deployed and we can see it online. Okay, build successful, it was deployed. Let's click on the Open App button here. And we have an application error. I wonder what that is and why is that failing. You can go ahead and check your logs to see why the application is failing, but we know why. If we go back to our application, we'll see in package.json that there is this script called server. But on Heroku, the command that Heroku is going to use to run your application is npm start. And it expects that you're going to have a script called start here that will execute your application using Node instead of NodeMon. So let's go ahead and make that small change here. Add a start script. Make it execute index.js, which is the entry point of the application, but using Node instead of NodeMon. Let's save that change. And of course, we need to commit that to GitHub so that the change is reflected in your application on Heroku. So let's open a new terminal here. Do a commit of adds start script. And then git push. If we go to our repository on GitHub, notice that that change is not there yet. We refresh, we should see that there is a change that says add start script. Heroku should be, if you go to the overview, should detect the change, and it has. It's rebuilding the application now. And as soon as that process is done, it's going to deploy it with a new version that includes the start script. It may take a little bit. It's done. And let's go see if that fixes the error. So I'll go back to our application, hit refresh, and here you go. Oh, wait a minute. This doesn't look the same as what we have in our development environment though. If we go and check out here, if we hit send, we get message of the day. The reason for that is the way that we define this message of the day is by having it on a .env file. But you may remember from a prior video that we ignore this file, so it never gets pushed to GitHub. If we go check out GitHub, we'll see that the .env is in fact missing from our root folder. So the question is, how can I set up this message of the day environment that I have defined here, but do it on Heroku instead, so that Heroku can find that message and display it? If everything works, we should have a message of the day with whatever message we add as an environment on our Heroku server. Let's go do that. It's pretty simple. We go into Heroku. There is a section here that says settings. If you click on the reveal config vars, all we have to do is create our environment variable here and give it a value. We're going to say hello from Heroku. Click add. And now Heroku has this message of the day defined as an environment variable. So our application can read from it and display this message. Let's go and refresh and see if that worked. And in fact, we could see it right there. Message of the day, hello from Heroku. We don't have any shouts, right? Let's go and add one. Let's go to this post. Instead of posting to localhost, we're going to post to our Heroku API. We're going to send this shout to Lambda students. Here we go. We have pushed to Heroku. So if we go back to the application and refresh, we should see the first shout right there. A shout to Lambda students. And that is it. We have seen how to deploy to Heroku, how to set a really complex process of continuous deployment, meaning I push on my regular workflow, I just push to master, and the application gets updated automatically on Heroku. We can also have secrets protected behind environment variables. And we could set those easily in Heroku by going to the config vars within the settings tab. We just add it right here, give it a name or the key, and then a value, hit add, and we're good to go. Now our application can access those by using process.env. You have a way to deploy applications to Heroku.